Hey everyone, welcome. It's about an hour after the market close on Wednesday, November 20th. Decided to wait an hour today to see how Nvidia earnings turned out, and so far it's been kind of a dud, but we'll take a look at that and what happened in the markets today. So today was actually a pretty volatile day. So we started out pretty strong in the pre-market. We closed over here, looked like overnight, the futures of the S&P were up, and it looked like we were up all the way until the last hour or so before the market opened, where it started to come down. And then when the market opened, we started to move down quite aggressively before we found some equilibrium around this 587 level. Now, if you were in the Telegram channel, I shared that the gamma levels were indicating between 584 and 589, and that there's some uncertainty because there is such a large number of strikes that had pretty much equal amounts of gamma levels. But in the end, towards the last hour of the market, we staged an impressive comeback, and bulls really came back into this market, and finally, we closed just about exactly where we closed yesterday. In fact, we are up by 20 cents, 0.03%. So basically, after all that excitement and after all that hoopla, all we did was just chop sideways. And we are barely above the EMA 8, just like we were barely above the EMA 8 yesterday. So this EMA 20 and EMA 8 has really defined the range of the S&P 500 all week, but for most of the days, or the last 3 days, we've ended a little closer to the EMA 8. I guess last 2 days, we've ended closer on the high end of the EMA 8, and that's good news. That's bullish. But we really do want to see, like I said yesterday, we want to see that continue into tomorrow before we get too excited and before we start looking for 595 and 600, and then later in the year, potentially as high as 615. So far, we didn't get that today. We had that little uncertainty after Target earnings missed, and then I guess did they? Yeah, they missed, and then we had Nvidia earnings hanging over our heads, so there was a lot of uncertainty. And then we finally did get the Nvidia earnings, and let's take a look at how the market reacted to that. So post-market, you can see that the initial results was a sell-off. Nvidia did announce an earnings beat on both the forward statement and on their actual earnings, but for whatever reason, the initial reaction was a downward movement, and then we've since recovered. So basically flat. It's like probably one of the most boring and non-insignificant NVIDIA earnings, or at least reactions to NVIDIA earnings that we've had in quite some time. And so far, it looks like that it's not really going to have much an effect on the market. There is certainly the potential for it to be a market moving event, but it really looks like it's not going to be. So that for us, that removes the uncertainty off the table, and we can start resuming looking at the things that were strong today or what are strong in the markets. We can start putting capital back to work, just like portfolio managers are going to be putting capital back to work. So let's see how the various sectors did today. Actually, let's look at VIX first. We saw VIX move higher throughout the day, and we did end higher today, even though we closed at the same level. VIX is elevated. So like I said, volatility did come into this market, and that's evidenced by that huge movement that we saw in the market today. And then we should also look at volume average. We hit the average on both yesterday and today. So normal amounts of volume, at least for now, is actually in terms of the year, we're still on the low end, but at least it's hitting the average over the last 50 days. So let's look at sectors, because now that this is behind us, we can start putting capital work, but we don't want to get too excited because we have the weekend coming up, and then the following week is Thanksgiving week, and we're going to be off on Thursday and I believe a half day on Friday. So probably not going to be too much activity next week, but we could start to get movement back upwards is the more likely direction now at this point. So we want to know where to start deploying our capital, either to the downside or to the upside. So let's go ahead and look for that. Okay, financials chopped sideways, but still very bullish and strong. So we would still be interested in XLF. Communications did excellent today, where most of the day it was still up. This is still looking great. Communications is probably the strongest sector at the moment. Financials is doing quite well as well. Let's find my scan again. XLY, consumer discretionary, is looking pretty good, very bullish. Not a lot of action today, sideways, just slightly down, but still looking very healthy. I would still be looking at strong consumer discretionary stocks. Utilities, a bit of a chop sideways. So again, I think yesterday I said I would wait until we started to break out above these levels before I was too confident on utilities, but it's definitely a sector to keep our eye on. Real estate, and not at this moment in time. And oh, you know what? We should look at all the major indices, not just the S&P 500. S&P 500, we already said it chopped sideways. How about QQQ? QQQ pretty much recovered also and chopped sideways, although it is still under its EMA 8. So it's down 0.06%. That's not really significant. But what is significant is that both yesterday and today, it was not able to break above its EMA 8. So relative strength-wise, the S&P 500 is still doing better than the QQQ. Look at the Dow Jones, same story for the Dow Jones. Both yesterday and today, we remained under the EMA 8. So Dow Jones is also underperforming the S&P 500. And let's look at our small caps. Small caps, exact same thing. So right now, it's definitely looking like the S&P 500 is being favored. So that means we're not looking at the tech sector and through the discretionary sector. It was a little bit more broad than just that. Although they were the strongest looking sectors, the communications at least, and the discretionary, it looks like those financials are playing a fairly significant role as well. And then let's take a quick look at ARKK, the most aggressive of the small caps. And this all 3 days, the last 3 days, we've been above the EMA 8. So strength-wise, there's still a lot more strength in the ARKK than the IWM. And this is still looking very interesting to me. Okay, let's finish with our sectors. We've got defense, the defense sector. I would wait for a recovery. I would wait for a bounce and a breakout before I was interested in that. Same with tech. Tech XLK looks like it didn't break above its EMA 8 either. Nope. So really the only ones outperforming are XLF, XLY, and XLC. And then let's start looking at some that might be underperforming. It's probably just healthcare and IBB again. XBI, so biotech, which is the same as IBB. Both of those are biotech. Oh, energies. Energies are doing quite well. We'll take a more careful look at that. IBB, yes, XLV, yeah. So XLV, I'd be interested in taking some weak stocks short. Here, it doesn't look like XLV is doing all that well. And given the healthcare reforms that are on the table with the new presidency, it seems like that we're going to be uncertain about healthcare for a little bit. So I wouldn't mind looking for shorts in the healthcare sector. So what was the one that we were looking at? Was it let me refresh my energies. There we go. Yeah. Energies look like they're on a nice steady uptrend right here. And we did reach this initial level that we were talking about the other day where we wanted to see it. And so if we can break above that, then energies are starting to look pretty good. So that is speaking to some level of confidence that the American economy will continue to be strong, and so there will be demand for energies. So let's take a look. Actually, airline stocks, cruise line stocks, they should be doing well as well based on this, or maybe like travel stocks. Look at booking.com. I believe, Booking Holdings. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. It's chopped sideways for a little bit. I'm going to make a note to myself about that. Let's take a look at some Expedia. Okay, still looking very bullish. Not bad at all. Looks like it may be bouncing off the EMA 8. I'm going to make a note to myself about that as well. And let's take a look at some airlines. United Airlines, bullish, very bullish. Delta Airlines, bullish, not as strong as UAL. Then discount one, Southwest, bullish, but not nearly as strong as UAL. So looking like UAL is the strongest of those. I'd be keeping my eye on that one for good entry points. And then let's look at some cruise lines. NCLH. Okay, we would want to break above the EMA 8 before, so we would be looking for a bounce off of the EMA 20, which isn't confirmed yet. How about Royal Caribbean? That's looking pretty good. That's a great bounce and potential breakout right here. I'm going to make a note to myself about that one. And then Carnival Cruise Lines. Same thing, actually did break out, but we just want to see that continuation. So today was a choppy sideways movement. We want to see a continuation of that. So it does look like travel and energies are moving up. That speaks to confidence in the American economy continuing to be strong or strengthening over the next foreseeable future. And then we are looking at XLC. That's probably my favorite out of all of them. XLF and XLC are my favorites. XLY is looking very good as well. So if we want to look for longs, we'd be looking in those three sectors. If we want to look for shorts, we'd be looking in healthcare. Okay, so that's it for today. Now that NVIDIA earnings are behind us and they've proven to be basically a nothing burger, we are free to put capital to work again, because Wall Street certainly is, although we're bumping up right up against that Thanksgiving holiday. So I wouldn't be super gung-ho about it. I'd keep my powder dry for after Thanksgiving. So maybe some small allocations, and then keeping cash available for new and better opportunities after the Thanksgiving holiday.